Oh, hello. Do you have your tool vest on? You wanna go in the garage? Come on, let's do it.
Hey guys, my name is Rachel Metz from Living to DIY, and if you don't know who I am, a quick little background about myself, because maybe you clicked on the video like, how do I use a trim router? Well, my take on this is going to be a little bit different. I partnered with Home Depot for the prospective program, but basically they send me tools to review, and most of the tools I actually don't know how to use. So I wanted to start to film these tool times to like learn in real time with you guys. We are going to be looking at this Ryobi ONE Trim Router, and yes, I dabbled with it. Clearly we have a DIY here that is finished. The battery is sold separately. It is 18-volt battery compatible, and there is actually more than 125 products with the 18-volt battery. So if you were to just buy this tool then start to add on to your 18-volt family, you have over 125 products that this battery can go right into. That was a little awkward. The other cool thing about this is that there is a 3-year manufacturer warranty that comes with it. And I know that sounds like a boring fact, but for somebody who lets people use their tool, I wouldn't have to stress too hard since there's that warranty. We're not going to be going into joint work because I don't personally know how to do it. We're just going to be doing a very simple DIY. I'm going to be showing you a roundover bit and a straight bit. And it's not going to be covering all the bases, just the tips and tricks that helped me execute a couple DIYs over the last couple of days of getting my hands on this thing. We're just gonna take it nice and slow together, and yeah, let's just jump right into it.
When you unbox, you will find the tool itself and the wrench to change out your bits. In order to set the depth of your router bit, you just have to open up the lock on the side, and you can use the micro adjusting dial, or you can also push in the side and pull it up or down with ease if you don't need to do small increments. With the adjustable collar extended all the way to the top, the depth of your cut could be 1.5 inches plus the amount of your tool extending it from below the clear faceplate. Simply close the lever to lock it into place after you have set the depth of your choosing. And all this is pretty much done with ease because of the sturdy battery base. You obviously don't want your battery in there when you're changing out the bits, but it just makes it a lot easier to change them out with it being just so secure onto the table when you're working. Working our way towards the collet, you will see that there is a clear base. There's also an LED light that illuminates the workspace when switched on. The collet itself is actually where the bit is inserted, and it can hold a 1/4 shank. To insert the bit, you want to just press down that button towards the top to lock the collet into place, and then you can use your fingers or the wrench to loosen it up to slide it in. You don't want the bit to, like the cutting part of it, to be directly sitting on top of the collet. Give it a little bit of space. Again, make sure to press down that button towards the top to lock the collet into place, and use the wrench to completely tighten it all the way. This is a roundover bit. It is meant to create a decorative edge, and when I first went in off camera, just to make sure I wasn't about to flip a piece of wood or I want to see how strong the tool was, it grooved into the wood way too deep, so I decided to hold the wood up against it and kind of get a feel to what would be flush. I used the micro adjust to get to that small tiny change, and I locked it into place. Once the bit is locked into place, you can insert the battery. You want to ensure that the wood piece you are using this on is securely clamped down to the workshop table you are using. Now for the fun part to actually use this thing, when you go to use this router, make sure that the opening is facing away from you and the safety window is towards you. You want to run the router along, letting the bit get to full speed before you're touching the wood from left to right. I am left-handed, so holding this and learning was a little bit awkward, but this does feature a grip zone over mold with micro texture for user comfort. I just had to get the hang of it first. You're going to see a little burn on the corner of this piece of wood, and that is because I held the trim router there for way too long while trying to figure out if the base was flush to the wood, if it was straight onto the wood. I just was kind of freaking out. A tip that I later learned was don't start necessarily right on the edge. You can move in a little bit and then follow back to that spot and get it nice and smooth without burning it. During that quick little transition, I actually opened the lever and micro adjusted the bit to go further down. I wanted to see what this roundover bit would do if it wasn't necessarily flush. For my first time using this roundover bit, it definitely took a little bit of adjustment. Obviously, you need to start anywhere to learn anything, but once I got a better feel for it, I actually used it in a DIY I have not released yet. You'll see me using it backwards here because I actually didn't know you had to move it left to right, but it worked regardless of me moving it it right to left. Not saying that it is correct, but I did want to show you that I made the mistake before correcting my mistake to teach you before I showed you it. Like, what is happening? Something else that I learned as I went is that you just want to keep a light, even, secure hold and pressure on this, because if you kind of push in too far, you see the little divot in the wood. Just, it's very, very subtle. But if you want it to be nice and straight, just make sure to keep an even pressure the entire time. Don't get aggressive like I did. As you and I look over these round over edges in more detail, I know you can't see me off camera, obviously, but you want to make sure you have no loose clothes, your hair is pulled back, you have some safety goggles on, a mask so you're not inhaling these wood particles, and also some earplugs because it is a little bit loud. We spent some time with that round over bit. Now let's move on to the straight bit, because that's what we'll be using to really create the DIY that I have in store for you in this video. Again, you want to remove the battery, press down the button towards the top, and you can use the wrench to loosen it, or even your fingers if it allows, but you most likely will need the wrench. Again, make sure you remove the battery. You do not want to do this with the battery, and God forbid it turned on and it hit your fingers. Come on, people. Pull out that bit and then just insert your straight bit of choice. I do want to make note that moving forward when I'm using this bit, I will be adjusting it to get to the cut depth to match my desired application, which will be a couple of different things moving ahead. I didn't take note to exactly how deep I was setting it, but you will see that I do it in small increments with that micro adjusting dial. Right here, since I'm not going to give you all the details about this DIY, I'm going to give you details about another one. I'm just trying to basically notch out this wood to just have a little bit of wood for this groove for whatever I'm installing to attach to. And it was awesome with the trim router for my first experience to just kind of go in, micro adjust little by little and get to that exact thickness that I wanted. Typically I try to chisel it and break it and just probably split the wood, but this made it so much easier for me. I basically routed that down to like a 1/4 inch because I'm going to be putting an outlet box into it, but I digress. Let's move on to the next DIY. I definitely wish I had can of air on hand. I try to use my leaf blower, my mini one, to kind of just clear out that area, but it just wasn't cutting it for me. I went in with my screwdriver and removed that clear base plate, and then went in with a paper towel and just got all this wood away from the safety window because the wood that I was cutting was a little bit damp, so it was sticking to it. I just say get a bottle of can of air and hopefully all those problems will go away with the cleaning issue. If you guys know of an easier way, please let me know because I have a tendency to do things the hard way. Now that we've learned a little bit more about this trim router, let's dive into the DIY itself. Don't freak out about these wooden letters that you see. They're actually from Joann's. I did not cut these out. I linked them down below for you as well. I don't want you guys having to feel like, oh, I have to cut out the letters in order to do this DIY. We're gonna do some mini marquee letters. You will need the Ryobi ONE Trim Router, the straight bit set that I showed you earlier, some wooden letters of your choice, or even just a wooden symbol, totally up to you. Shout out to my girl Lizzie who could cut these out in her sleep. I'll link her Instagram down below for a ton of inspiration. You'll need a straight edge of some sort. I'm using a ruler, pencil, and a measuring tape. And then earplugs, a mask, safety goggles, and a clamp. We are going to be marking out where we want to actually use the router. I marked in about a 1/4 inch from the sides of every single letter, and then I used my straight edge to connect those dots to give me a guideline and fill that in with some pencil to make sure I am not cutting outside the area I should be. It's kind of like don't color outside the lines, or try not to. I repeated that to the remaining of the letters. I am going to be sanding out that O to be completely rounded because I'm going to use this as wall art. Now it's time for my first victim. I clamped the E into place with a heavy duty Bessie clamp, and then I just basically turned on the router, let it sink into the wood, and went to work. I know I'm working right to left here, and I'm putting my hand towards the base plate. That was just to kind of hold it towards the edges. That was getting a little bit iffy. I didn't want it to shoot off, but you don't have to go all the way to the edge automatically. Just work from the middle, and then once you start to get more comfortable, go towards the outside where you made your guideline. Once I did the first pass through the entire letter and kind of knocked out those guidelines, I micro adjusted the router to go deeper and then worked my way even deeper to a 3/4 inch depth of the groove. I did that to the remaining LOV, and then I went in once I got way more comfortable with using this to make grooves, and just took my time with a nice easy pressure to smooth out the edges the best that I could. Keep in mind that we can fake it till we make it here. I definitely hit the sides a little bit deeper than I intended to, but I didn't freak out because I knew I could go back in with some sandpaper and wood putty, waited for it to dry, and smooth it out to just kind of give the illusion that I got it perfect-ish the first time around. Once I sanded everything down smooth, I actually decided to flip the letters over and not sand this routed side down smooth. I just wanted to basically make a groove because we were going to be adding these lights. And if you don't make a groove, you have nowhere to kind of tuck them into. So if you were to hang this on the wall like I am, the letters wouldn't be flush because there would be the cords jumbled behind. Strictly off the fact that this is getting a tad bit repetitive, I'm gonna fast forward through this, and we just repeated this to the remaining of the letters on the back end. So one side's finished, one side's not. I'm not freaking out about the back, that's not finished. I originally moved these letters to a piece of wood so I can drill into them, but it actually looks pretty cute like this for a sign. That's just a side note of my own. The lights are totally dependent on the style that you're going for. I got the smallest ones available at Michael's, and then I didn't even measure or make these straight. I just simply eyed it with my drill and a larger size drill bit so the lights can fit with ease through it, and kind of just eyeballed how many should go in each letter, and that's just me being completely honest. After I had all my holes drilled, I just flipped the letters upside down, and I actually strung this the wrong way, you'll see in a second, but I basically just popped one light into each hole, and it depends on the word that you're doing, but you want to make it sure that it flows kind of evenly, and I wanted it to connect at the bottom of each letter. That way I could hide it a little bit more easy when I hang it up on the wall.
Oh my gosh, you guys, I just realized, look how I did it when you flip it back around. Wrong way. Let's try that again, Rach.
I went back and I put the bulbs back through the correct way, the same way that I did before, so the plug can kind of stream it down the E to the wall, and it really started to take its shape. Obviously, the sides aren't that straight, but I was super pumped for my first time around. So for the cords to be not sticking out behind the letters, I went in temporarily with some painter's tape, and that is because I'm going to end up removing these lights, painting or staining these letters a different color. I just haven't figured it out yet because I haven't finished the mini human's bedroom. And then I'm gonna replace it once I take these back out and paint it when I decide. I'll replace it and put a little bit of tape on each cord, go in more tediously, and hold them down with this. This would be the proper tape to use. This is just a quick fix to show you guys what it looks like. That is it for today, you guys. I hope that this video inspired one of you to pick up a Ryobi ONE Trim Router. I've linked absolutely everything that I can down below in the description box. Thank you so much to Home Depot and the Perspective program for sponsoring today's video. Comment down below what other tools you guys want to learn more about, maybe some more of these tool time segments. I'll put a poll here to see what you guys are feeling. I'll catch you Wednesday for another DIY.